I just paste the questions. I'll see to it. After the session completes, we'll see to it. Amatya, just remind me, we'll discuss the last question. Yesterday I told you, right? We'll discuss it at the end, today end of morning session. Okay, guys, listen. Those who missed out yesterday's session, let me give the overall recap of it. What are the topics we have covered? Yesterday, specifically, we have seen about OOPS concept. Okay, whenever we say OOPS, it is object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming has two base elements. One is class, and other is object. This is the base for object-oriented programming. So keeping this as a base, and we have four pillars of object-oriented programming, that is abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, and inheritance. These are the four pillars of object-oriented programming. So this object-oriented programming is common for all the programming language like Java, C++, .NET, whatever the language it is, the language which follows OOPS concept. The concept is same, only the implementation wise they are going to vary. Clear? The concept, OOPS concept in the sense where your definition is not going to change for each and every programming. Your definitions are everything is same. Only the implementation wise is going to vary. There, guys. You're supposed to understand this. So we should understand what is class, what is object. Right now, let me explain only these two guys. So I'll repeat these topic when I'm coming with each and every implementation wise. So whenever we say class, a class is a blueprint, or I can name it as a entity which has a common behavior attribute can be let as a class. So I can take car, laptop, pen as a class. So when I say laptop, I didn't mention any specific brand of laptop. As a general, we told that a laptop which can, if we feed some input which responds to us, which has a structure of monitor, keyboard, when it has this structure, I can name it as a laptop. Okay, so this particular common feature, I'm just mentioning the blueprint alone. I doesn't mean that the skeleton should be like this. I doesn't mean the functionality of it. So like this, whatever it is there, I can name it as a class. And if you want to say object, object is an instance of a class. Instance in the sense particular brand of car, a particular brand of laptop. Okay, that is known as a object, a instance of a class. If you want to implement this one, I'll be implementing like this. The syntax is class, class name, and class can contain only the attribute and methods inside it. Attributes in the sense variable and methods in the sense functions. So this terminology you are comfortable with your procedure oriented programming. So far we have seen fundamentals, we have seen it, right? In those cases we may have came across variables and function. Here in case of OOPS concept we'll be naming as attributes and methods. So inside a class I can place only these two elements directly. One is attributes and other is method. If you want to access this class element, so class is declared. So once the class is declared, memory is not initialized for it. So if you want to initialize the memory for the class, I'm supposed to create an object for a class. It is created by using object assign class name. This is how you're supposed to create an object for a class. And if you want to access this class members is nothing but attributes and methods are known as class members. If you want to access these persons are accessed by using the object. For example, you can look at here, I declare class followed by the laptop. Right now, I'm not writing anything inside it, so I have mentioned pass inside it. Okay, so as I told you that I can able to have different types of objects for a single class. I can have multiple type of object. So I'm creating HP laptop, Dell laptop. This HP assigned laptop is nothing but creation of object for a class. You can relate here object name assign class name. This is how to create a object for a class. Okay, and next is this invoking a class can be done by two methods. One is by using object and other is by using class name. The class name just for your reference I given it, but we, more or less where you go everywhere you can able to see accessing the class and class members only by using the object is done. So if you want to access the class members by using class name, you'll be accessing class name dot get. So you'll never change anything in this get method. A get method remains as such. As you declare in the normal function, will be declaring like def followed by calci, def followed by square. Right? A normal function will be defining here. Def followed by the function name followed by the parenthesis. And will be defining what are the statement you wanted. If you want to invoke this method, I'll be invoking just by mentioning class name dot followed by the function name. If I execute this, you can notice that output will be displayed here. Okay. And if you want to access the same method by using object, we know that creation of the object can be done by object assign followed by the class name. This is how you're supposed to do it. So if you do this object creation, nothing will happen. Memory will be reserved for this laptop class. If you want to invoke the element inside the get method by using object, you are supposed to pass one variable as self here. The reason is if I invoke the get method by using object.get, internally it is invoking as get of object. So it means that I'm passing one parameter value, and the parameter value whatever you're passing is current object. So if you're passing object, I need some person to receive it. I just declare a variable name called self, and this self is a variable which is used universally to receive the current object. So it is wiser to use self for referring a current object. Clear? And next what I'm doing is I'm just executing this particular get method twice by creating two object, object1 and object2. Okay, by creating two objects, I'm trying to execute it. So what happens here? First time get method is invoked. So this when this get method is invoked, this all is well is printed. Second time is also it is printed. Make sure that whenever you are calling a method by using object, it is mandatory to use one variable to receive the current object reference. And next one is this is all about your declaration of a class and object, guys, how to access it and how to declare. And next one is we'll be seeing about what are the different types of variable available. In case of Python, these are the different types of variable available. Class attribute, here I'll be naming variable as a attribute. Class attribute, local attribute, instance attribute, global attribute. These are the different types of variable available. Whenever I say class attribute, the class attribute is common for the entire class. Okay, it is common for the entire class. When I declare a variable, listen, yeah, we are taking an example called sample, and in this class, I'm declaring one variable called 10. If you are declaring some element directly inside a class like this, if I'm declaring some element directly inside a class, the particular attribute is called a class attributes. And we know that this is a syntax of a class. When a class is declared, only two elements can occur inside a class directly. One is attribute and other is method. Only these two elements can occur directly inside a class. Other element is not possible to occur. The other element, what I mean is any function like calculation part or input part, everything has to be done only inside your method. It is not possible to do directly inside a class. So here I'm declaring a variable var assign 10, and this variable is a class variable. Okay, and in this program what you're doing is I'm trying to use two function or two methods. One is get method and other is a display method. So what you're doing is we are trying to create an object for this class, and after this when I call object.display, I am get function will be called, and I'm calling display. So if I call display, it will go here. And if you want to access your class variable, okay, if you want to access a class variable, it is supposed to access by using class name dot followed by the variable. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to increment my class variable by 1. Then I'm going to print it. So what happened when I'm incrementing and printing, it will print 11. And for the same class, I'm just creating one more object, object2, and I'm calling my again get method and display method. You can notice that this particular object is a separate copy of memory will be reserved. But what I told you, this particular class variable allocates only one memory for the particular class. For each and every time when the object is created for a class, it will never allocate memory in case of class variable. So what happened when I'm trying to print for a second time, it will take a last initialized value for the class variable. The last incremented value is 11. So it will be incremented as 12 and will print it. This is for your class variable, guys. The initial value is 10. When the first time display is called, it is incremented and it is displaying us as 11. When the second time display is called by using your object 2, it is displaying as 12 instead of displaying 11. The reason is only one copy of memory is retained for the particular class variable. So this is all about your class variable, and your class variable can be accessed throughout your program. If at all you want to access a class variable outside a class, I'll be accessing by using class name dot variable name. It is even accessed outside your class. This is all about your class variable. And next one is if we are speaking about this local variable, local in the sense a variable is accessed only within a boundary. Boundary in the sense either within a method or within a for loop inside a particular boundary, that is called local variable. Look at here, what we did is the same program, just we added one two lines here. If I declare a variable here like this, var assign int of input, so this var is a local variable, so which means that this variable can be accessed only within this boundary. The boundary limit is only within this get method. Outside this method is not accessible, that is called local variable. If at all I'm trying to access this element here, as I told you, keep in mind that class variable can be accessed only by using a class name. Here this is a local variable, just I'm assigning var1 assign input. I'm getting input from the user and I'm trying to display here. So when I try to display here, it will never throw you any error, it will be working fine. Just I'm creating object, I'm calling get method. When I call get method, it goes here, input is accepted, and after input I'm trying to display the value of var1, so it is displayed as 25. And after this, when I try to call this display method, it will throw you error. The reason is var1 accessibility limit is only within the get method. When I try to access outside, it will throw you error. You can notice here var is not defined. There is a error thrown. The reason is inside this display method, it doesn't know what is var. The limit is only within this one. Okay. This is all about your local variable. And next is global attribute, in the sense if I declare an element globally here, it is accessed throughout a program. If you want to access a global variable, you can access directly as a var here. I can access directly var. So if I access directly as var, our global variable will be printed. So you can notice that here this example, I give an example of global variable as well as instance variable. So global variable can be accessed throughout a program. For global variable here I initialize 40. If I want to access a global variable, you can access directly with a variable name. And for instance variable, if I say instance variable, the instance variable is declared with a keyword called self. What is self? We know that self is the current object reference, isn't it? The current object reference dot var. You're supposed to access like this. So where this instance variable is accessed, we know that class variable is accessed throughout the class. The same way, instance variable is also accessed throughout a class for the particular instance. It is common for one instance. Object one is a instance, in the sense object. I told you yesterday clearly, instance of a class object is, isn't it? So when I say instance, here this particular variable is common for one instance. If I create one more object, again it will start from the beginning. Again it will be initialized. Clear with it? For each and every object, it will have a separate copy of these set of variable. If at all your program has three separate variable and the initial value is 0, 1 or something, when the object is created, it will be initialized separately. For each and every set of object will have these many set of variable and functions will be created. Clear with this thing? That's the reason I told you that memory will be allocated for each and every object. So how many variables and how many methods this particular class has, those many sets will be, those many set of copy will be there for one object, and again a separate set of copy will be for separate object. Clear with it? It's like a student registration form. For first student, all the information is separate, and for second student, separate information. So for it doesn't mean that for the first students I got these information, I'm not going to get information for a second student. You're supposed to accept separate copy of same set of information. Clear? Whenever I'm creating an object for this class, the same set of variable is allocated for object 1 and memory is reserved individually for var. So when I'm going to create object 2, again separate set of memory is reserved. So let me clear this and let me execute and show you people, guys. Okay, you can notice that I'm creating object and I'm calling get method. So once I call get method, it'll go here. And what I told you, this is all about your instance variable. 25 is initialized. I'm printing my within the function, I'm printing it. As I told you, this instance variable is accessed throughout your class. I'm trying to access here as well as here. So instance variable, in the sense I'll access the variable by using self dot. Whenever it is a global variable, I'll be accessing directly. Okay, whenever it is a class variable, I'll be accessing by using class name. These are the differences, guys. So when I'm trying to access outside, it will access fine. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to increment the value here 25. It is incremented as 26. I'm printing 26 here. So 26 is printed. So one copy of object is done. So when I go for a second set of copy, the same set of operation is going to done. Here you can notice that. So before that, I'm just printing my global variable. So my global variable, whatever we initialize is 40, it is printed as 40 here. Okay. And next is, and separate set of object is created here, object 2. And again, get method is called. You can notice that a reinitialization of this variable happens. Clear. Reinitialization of this variable happens, but in case of class variable, that never happens, guys. Okay. And here you can notice that 25 and 26 is printed. Again reinitialize, and again this value is displayed. This is all about your class variable, instance variable, and local variable. Okay, and global variable. These are all about your attributes. And after this, what you are seeing, and this is the example of class variable, guys, how to implement it. You can have a glance of it later. Okay, just the same example I have done it here. What else I can do here? What will say? We have seen about this dunder methods. There are some special methods called dunder methods, and this method has a predefined functionality. This method always starts with double underscore. Okay, the name of these methods is called, guys, just I'm giving a short hint of it. You people can go through it later in a video also, okay, so that you can have a idea about it. These are predefined method, and these method will work based on the functionality of your object. So we are not going to define the functionality of these methods. The functionality is defined by using the predefined compiled code. Okay, we are not going to define it. So here we'll be using, often we'll be using this double underscore init. So this double underscore init is similar to a constructor. Okay, it is similar to a constructor in other programming. So here, why do I use this init is, normally if you want to call certain methods, I'll be calling object.get, object.area. The method has to be called. If you doesn't call the method, it will never be invoked or it can never be executed. So if you want to execute the particular method without calling it, in those cases you can define the particular method as double underscore init, and this method will help you to invoke automatically once the object is created. You can notice that here I'm creating an object. If I'm executing this, it'll be invoked automatically. I'm not calling this method. This is all about double underscore init, guys. Okay. So if some method we want to invoke automatically, I can mention by using double underscore init. Here you can notice that I'm calculating area of a circle and circumference of a circle, and we know that pi is a common element, right? So I'm initializing pi with the value 3.14. And here I'm just writing the formula for area of a circle and circumference of a circle inside two functions. One is area and another is circumference. And I know that radius is a common one which has to be accepted from the user by default. If I want to calculate the radius, I want it to be accepted from the user. So what I can put is, I can put this radius operation inside a init. So once the object is created, automatically this init method will be called and your radius will be accepted. Okay, that is the use of init method, guys. Once object is created, this will be invoked automatically. Then this function will be executed. This is the main purpose of your init method. Okay, guys, I want you this function to look at this function by using video tutorial, guys. Okay, I don't want to, this will take again 10 to 15 minutes of time. Just have a glance of it in video tutorial, and I'll move on to closure, guys. Closure is an important topic which you people are supposed to know. So if I keep on explaining this will complete today morning session will be completed. So better you can have a glance of these topics. I have given a basic idea of a class and object, right? You can have these topics in the video tutorial, and I'll go ahead with the bottom topics whatever we have covered yesterday, and this is the important one. And after this, we have covered about first class function, closure. These are the two topics which are covered. Okay. Whenever we say first class function, it is all about passing function as an argument to other function. Normally, we used to pass a variable. Here, I'm passing a function. Here, you can notice that there is two function. One function is first function, another function is display. So, if you want to invoke this fun, I'll be invoking as, okay, I'll be invoking by mentioning, just a minute, guys. I'll be invoking this by mentioning fun. So if I mention fun, this function will be called. Here what I'm passing this function name as a parameter. So what happened? My variable will be assigned for this display. And right now, literally, what does it mean? A my variable and display are same person. Okay, so if I'm calling print, if I'm calling this function, what happened? I am fun will be displayed, and after this, myvar. What is this all about? This is a function call. So what does myvar denote? Literally, it means display. So what happened? This display function will be called and this will be executed. This is all about passing function as argument to other function and invoking it, not invoking the function directly. The main exact implementation, why should we do like this? The implementation will be known for you when you're coming with the decorator part, guys. We didn't start with decorator. So just to have an idea about it, what is first class function? First class function is all about passing function as an argument for other function and returning function back from a exiting function. This is all about a first class function. So I'll come down here, look at here, and this is also in first class function. Here I'm passing as an argument for a function. Here I'm returning a function back from a function. Here you can notice that I'm calling the same function. Guys, look at here, fun followed by d. The same program, a small variation I did it. Fun followed by disp. So disp is passed here. So when it passed here, this data is passed as an argument as here. So what happened? Fun will be called with myvar as an argument. So myvar is assigned with display. And here this goes inside. Im function will be executed. So this will be displayed. And after this return myvar. Who is myvar right now? Myvar is disp. So this person will be returned back as a return type of this function. It will be stored in new function. Now literally this display can be called with myvar or by new function. Here when I'm calling new function of, which is I'm making a function call here, what happened? This particular new function mean display. So this function will be called and it'll display the output. I am display will be displayed. So somehow your output is same, but the way of execution is different. Previously we are passing as an argument. I'm just having a function call here. I'm passing as an argument now, and this function is returned back here. Okay, return back, and here I'm calling a function call. This is returning a function from a function. This is all about here first class method or first class function, guys. The other implementation is we came across closure. So what we have seen about closure, even when the function goes out of a scope, the value of the particular variable is retained. This is all about your closure. Now look at here, this program added without closure, guys. So there is a outer function, and inside the outer function there is one more function called inner function. Okay, here how does this execute? Here there is a, whenever I say closure, closure will have structure like this as a nested manner. As we see nested if else is there, right? The same way closure will have the structure nested. You can look at here what happens outer followed by hello. So what is this hello? This hello message is passed for this outer function, and right now this message is a variable which holds hello. So this is the first line of execution. It goes here. This is the second line, and from here it goes here, and after this it will never execute this set of statement. This set of statement will never be executed. The reason is function will be invoked when you're calling a function. Right now I didn't call a function, right? So from here what does it goes? Directly it goes to the return statement. Got it? The reason is the statement inside the outer function is this is a function call. Function until the function is called, it will never be executed. So it comes to the inner function. So right now I'm calling inner function. Now we go back here and this function will be executed. And here I'm printing message hello. So it is done. This is a function without a closure. I'm not implementing closure here. Directly I'm writing a structure of closure alone. I can say with implementation of first class method also. Okay, the same program when I'm trying to implement with the closure, how I did this, we did by using returning a value outside a function. So I'm just previously what we did, we are having a function call here itself. Instead of this, I'm going to have a function call outside your function as inside a main function. So what happened? Here, your outer function is called. Okay, here I'm calling my outer function. I'm calling outer function here. So what happened? A message hello is passed. So right now the outer function is executed, and right now message value is hello. This is done. And after this, where does it goes? I told you that until the function is called, it will never be executed. So this is not going to execute. So directly it comes here, return inner function. So from here, what it is returning? Your inner function is returned. So what happened? Your new function is assigned with the name called inner function. Now if I call inner function, from here it goes here and it invokes here. So you can notice that completely a inner outer function has came out of the scope. My outer function execution is done completely. I came out of it, I came to the main function. Now again I'm calling new function. New function means inner function. Yeah, inner function is executed. Now if I execute print followed by if I execute this particular, sorry guys, if I execute new function, what happened? This inner function will be executed. Print message of followed by puja is displayed. So what is the message? Hello. So hello puja will be displayed. So you can notice that this particular outer function scope has completely came out, isn't it? I'm not just using this outer function. Completely execution of the outer function has came out. Even then, what happened? The value. Just a minute, Amitya. I'll complete this one. When I completely came out, what happened? The value has been the message value has been assigned for the outer function, not for the inner function. Even now, when I'm trying to print, it is returning the message called hello and displaying hello puja. Okay, and then same function when I'm calling with the other name. So this could be the sixth line of sixth is done, right? Sixth, seventh. This could be the eighth one. So this process will be continued as many times as you want. Amatya, what is the doubt? So if you fifth line where fifth line we didn't give any parenthesis value, right? Are you giving any value for it? We are not giving, right? Here I'm not giving any value, Amatya. Yes, we are not passing any value. Or if you don't give parenthesis, you're asking, okay, okay. If you don't give parenthesis, function will never be called. You want me to do it? It will give you the object type of it. The function will never be called. If you're calling with the parenthesis only, it will be called. Without parenthesis, it will never be called. Okay. Guys, is this clear? This is what we have seen. Just given a quick recap of yesterday's session. Okay. Those who missed out the session, just I given only the glance of it, but I have given depth about each and every concept. I want you to go through it after the session completes so that you'll be clear with the basics of it. And now today we are going to see with the decorator, guys. Okay, this is a new topic which you're going to start today. So decorator is related to your closure. Whenever I say decorator, decorate, you might have came across this terminology called decorate. What does decorate means? You're going to add some flavors for the existing one. If it is a gift, if you buy some gift, you'll never give the same gift as in for your friend. You'll wrap it by the gift wrapper. All those things will be done, right? So it's the same way. There is a function which is already existing. We are going to decorate it. That is all about the decorator. Clear with it? The function is there. We are going to decorate the existing function by using decorator. Okay, so why should I use decorator? Let us assume you are using WhatsApp right now. If some additional feature is coming for a WhatsApp, they are not going to uninstall the existing feature. The existing feature is going to be there. They are going to add toppings to the existing feature, isn't it? All those things is done by using decorator. Got it? Existing application is right now everywhere the people are using. If they feel that some additional features has to be introduced, they are going to add topping to it. The reason is they can't able to remove one particular functionality of the application and they can't able to work on it. They are going to add only topping to the existing application. All those implementation is done by using decorator. Now you can read this statement, it will be clear. A function, the decorator is a function which take another function as argument, adds some kinds of functionality and then returns another function without altering the source code of the original function that is passed as an argument. Okay, whenever you use decorator, you're going to decorate the function without touching the original source code. That is all about your decorator, guys. I'll give you one example. Listen little carefully. So here I'm going to first show you without decorator how does it works and with decorator how does it works. Okay, guys, just a minute. Give me a second. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the interrupt. In between, I got a just a minute, ma. Okay, sorry, guys. Listen. So first I'll show you without decorator and then with decorator. So it will be clear, right? So what is the major difference? It will be, you can able to look at it. So let me take an example without decorator first. So keep in mind that as I told you that whenever I say decorator, it is the implementation of closure. So whenever we say closure, it's the implementation of first class method. Everyone is interlinked. All three persons are interlinked. So first let us go with without decorator. Okay. So here, okay, first let me type this, guy. Give me a second. I'll declare a function called decorator function. With the same name, let me declare so that it will be easy for you people to understand. Decorator function is there. And let us assume I'm going to have one more function here. Def followed by, just a minute, guys. What shall I give? Def followed by strings. Let us assume there is a predefined function. The function is already there, and as I told you that WhatsApp we are using it, right? So there is a function called string, and this has some functionality. Right now let us assume there is a function which is already existing, string1 and string2. Okay. Guys, let us assume mm, okay, there is a function which is there which already has some functionality. As I told you, we are using WhatsApp, and this WhatsApp has certain features. And as a end user, we people are using it. So let us assume this function has been defined in a program, and we are using it right now. Now, your task is given for you. That is nothing but you're supposed to add topping for this program without altering the source code. Source code in the sense this is already done. You're supposed to print all this data in uppercase. Hello, Sai, and Ganesh. This is a name which you're supposed to print. The complete information has to be printed in uppercase. So this is the task given, and we are supposed to we are going to do this by using decorator. You people might think that directly I can go here and put dot upper. It is not possible. The reason is this particular application is assume that it's a live application. You can't disturb the live application. You can add additional topping to it. The additional topping part only we are going to see how we are supposed to do without touching this function. This function is already there which is using. Assume it, okay, just that's the assumption. Assume it which the user is using an application. You are supposed to print the data here in an uppercase without disturbing this particular code. This is what you're going to see by using decorator. So just I've added this function here directly. Okay. And here, as I told you, just I'm going to do it without decorator. I'll disturb this function call alone initially and I'll show you how to do it. And later on with decorator, I'll show you without changing both the set of operation how we are going to do it. So here, let me mention a new function. New function is there. And let me call our decorator. Here, for this decorator function, here I'm going to pass the string function. The reason is this is a function which you're going to alter. Okay, this is the alteration which you're going to do. So I'm going to pass the string as a parameter, and here let me receive with the variable name called fun. Okay, and here I'm going to write a functionality for it. Let me write what is the operation I'm going to do. I'm going to make as a cap function, right? So let us write caps and let me mention arguments I'm going to receive it. I'll let you know what's the functionality with the explanation, guys. Right now, let me write the statement alone. Fun of star args dot upper. So I'm going to receive it and make it as the upper one. Just a minute. Let me complete this statement. Print new fun. Here, let me copy the same name. You want this message to be printed in uppercase, right? Let me pass this parameter here. So why it is okay. Just a minute, guys. One parameter is missing. Let me add to it and just a minute. Give me a second. Let me see to it. What is the error? New function. Okay, just a minute, ma. Decorator function of string. I'm passing it. Okay. And here I should return something. Without returning when I'm trying to call, that will be none. Return my caps. Okay, now it will execute. Okay. Okay, listen guys, I'll explain you this what is happening here. Then we can go with the decorator. Listen here, the previous flow only. The function, this is all about your implementation of closure. Function inside a function, the same part. Okay, and this is the function which you're going to add toppings to it. And here the function which you're going to add some future, I'm going to pass as a parameter. So listen carefully, we are going to go ahead with the flow. What is the first line of execution? This is the first line of execution. Your decorator function will be called. So once the decorator function calls, it will come here. This is the second line of execution. This is done. After this, what is the next line of execution? Your next line of execution will be this. The reason is until the function is called, it will never be executed. The next line is this is the next line. So what does happens here? Here when you're coming here, your fun is initialized with the function name called string. Okay. And here I'm returning caps. So what happens here? Your new function is when this particular data is written, it comes here. And here, guys, you can notice that directly from here it goes here and comes here. And this cap function will be written, it will come here, right? From here directly your control will come here. So this is the next first line of execution inside a function. So here what happened? Your new function will be initialized with cap. Okay, it will be initialized with cap. And now after this what I'm doing, I'm making a function call with new function by passing argument as Sai and Ganesh. Guys, make sure that whatever the topping you're going to add for this function, if this particular function has some argument, you're supposed to pass for the inner function. So that is the reason I'm passing this Sai and Ganesh as a parameter of new function. Literally means that who is the new function? Who is new function, guys? This cap is a new function. Okay, so I'm supposed to pass this for a cap. So when I pass this argument from here, this value will be passed as an argument for this cap function. So new function is your caps. So your next line of execution, this is your fourth line of execution. So this is the fourth line of execution. After this, it goes here. Okay, this is the fifth line of execution. And right now you can notice that this args is initialized with value called Sai and Ganesh. So we know that we are seeing while seeing the function, when you have more than one parameter, we are supposed to receive by using star args. Got it? So when I have more than one argument, I doesn't know the number of argument in those cases will be mentioning as star. So I have mentioned star here. So right now this arg is a variable which has this two variable names Sai and Ganesh. These are separate data. Now what happened? It go inside. So inside what is the data is there? You can notice here I'm having the first what it is showing. It is mentioning return fun of args. So what is this actually? This is a function call, right? A function name followed by the parameter is a function call. Here also fun. Who is fun? Yeah, fun is string. So when this statement is executed, so this str function is called with the argument whatever it is initialized. So what happened from here? This function is called. Guys, this is the important point, guys. Yeah, fun is a string. Okay, so this particular fun of args is a function call. When I pass here, what happened? This particular string function is called with the argument Sai Ganesh. So here Sai and Ganesh will be assigned for string 1, string 2, and this function will throw back here hello Sai and Ganesh in the lower case back here. This element will be substituted back again. And right now what happened? The return string will be of lower case. When I mention dot upper, the data will be converted to the upper case. Is that clear, guys? So after the fifth statement, this is a sixth line, this is a seventh line of execution, and this is the eighth line of execution. Again, it comes back, it stores the data here, and this is the last line of execution. And this data is written back here with the uppercase, and it is printed here. This is the 10th line of execution. Is this clear with the flow? How it is executing? Come on, respond me, guys. So we are going to see certain decorators by afternoon session. That is property decorator, getter, setter method. All those things will be continued by afternoon session, which is the implementation of this decorator part. In your MCQs, you people used to have decorators, guys. Is this clear, Ma? Come on, give me a confirmation. I'm getting only 2 or 3 confirmation. What about others? If you're listening this one twice or thrice, if you're working on it, it'll be clear, guys. First time it'll be seem to be little clumsy, but when you're working on it, it'll be easy for you to understand further. Okay, I guess everyone is clear, isn't it? I'm going to clear this diagram. If I clear it, okay, fine. I'll clear this one. Now that's done. So this one is implementation without decorator. Okay, but what is the actual scenario? I told you you should not disturb the source code. Even your function call is also source code. You are not supposed to touch with it. Okay, if you're not supposed to touch, what I can do? You're supposed to add a decorator to it. Let me tell you what is the decorator here. So here I'll copy this set of lines alone, guys. Okay, so the same set of line with decorator. Here just I'm going to have a function call. I'm not going to mention assign it, call it, nothing. I'm going to mention directly. I'm going to call the same function name print. Let me copy from here. It will be better. Your original source code, I'm copying it. So you can notice that your source code I didn't modify at all. This is your original set of source code. It remains as such, isn't it? So here we are going to add a decorator for it. If at all you want to implement this one, okay, I'm not going to change this part anywhere. At any cost, I should not touch this one. This is already existing one, I told you, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a decorator to it just by mentioning at the rate of followed by the decorator name. What is my decorator name? Decorator FUN is a decorator name, isn't it? So you can paste here. So now if you execute it, you can get the same answer. It is not our task to monitor, passing the parameter value, managing. It is not our task. A decorator by itself take care of it, as the map does the work. The same way does the decorator take care of itself. It is not required to declare this decorator function, pass an argument for it. Nothing is required. Writing topping for it, that's fine. So whenever you want to implement it, just mention at the rate. This at the rate means implementation of the decorator. Is it clear, guys? Clear with the implementation of decorator, the same code. I didn't previously I modified the function call. Here I didn't modify the function here. Your same set of code is there, just I'm adding a topping to it. So if now I guess you people are clear with why should I pass a function as an argument for the existing function. If you want to modify the existing functionality of the function, you're supposed to make use of this closure decorator part. This is the main purpose of it. Shall we move on to the next one, Ma? Till this, are you people clear? Do you have any doubt on it? You can let me know. Clear, right? Okay, good. Okay, guys, we'll discuss this program. Amatya is asking for past 2 days, right? We'll discuss this one. We are trying to do it, but unfortunately, the session will be ending. So we'll come with this one. This PAN card. This is a question which we people got it right. Look at this code. I have typed it. So I doesn't know whether the time is sufficient. So that is the reason I typed it before itself. Look at here. So just I given multiple test cases, guys, for this particular valid code or not. So what is the condition they are given? They are given 2 or 3 condition, right? So in your PAN card, first 4 digits should be alpha. First 5 digits should be alphabet. So first 5 PAN card consists of total 10 characters is there. Your first 5 should be alphabet, isn't it? Your first 5 should be alphabet, and next and the last one. So what is it? Just a minute, sorry, Vikash. I'll come here. I'll complete this. Okay, I've taken this one. I'll complete this and I'll complete your doubts. And next to 4 number will be a number, and the last one will be the alphabet. So this is a rule. Okay, this is a rule what they mention here. So by considering this rule, you can notice that I'm just forming the regular expression. So in case of here, what I'm doing is I'll take initially one test cases, guys. Here I'm just passing one PAN card number, and this function I written as is valid PAN card. And here I'm passing a PAN card number and using the PAN card number here. And here we know the regular expression I can able to form the pattern. As I told you, the Gmail can be formed as a pattern by using digit like this, right? The same way I'm forming this pattern with the first 5 number as alphabet. For this, what you can do is you can mention A to Z is the alphabet, and if you want to mention how many numbers specifically, I can mention in the braces with the number 5. The same way 0 to 9. Okay, 0 to 9, and this is for next 4 digits. So this represent how many digits, guys? First 5 digit, next 4 digit, next 1 digit. So what should be? First 5 digits should be alphabet, next 4 digits should be integer, and next 1 digit should be alphabet. So this is the rule I have mentioned it, and just this compile is for compiling this pattern and keeping in a variable name. So this is a pattern I have formed it. You're compiling it and keeping in a variable name. Here this is a regular expression, just assigning a pattern, and just I'm compiling and keeping in a variable name called P. It is up to us to keep in any variable name. So the compilers, you can able to form a pattern by your own and compile it and keep it, so that it is easy for us to match it. So here I'm going to search it. RE dot search of P comma PAN card number. So PAN card number is this number, and just I'm checking whether this pattern it is following. Okay, if at all it is following, that's fine. Okay, when you're trying to print this search, it will show you the matching column from where to where it is matching. Here you can notice that it will throw you 0 to 10. So starting from the 0th position till the 10th position, it can able to match it. Okay, it will match all the characters, and if it is matching, it will throw the matched pattern as an object. And next, one more condition is it can have exceeding values also. It is matching, and after this I can pass some excessive value also, right? So the we are matching only for this 10 character, and after this 10 character I can have additional character integer or something can be there. So if I want to check the length also should be 10, so I'm checking length of my PAN card is 10. So if my both the condition are true, then I'll mention true, else false. So I like this, I mentioned multiple test cases. The where your first test case is given with the same, the condition true. First to 5 with alphabet, and next with the integer, and next with the alphabet. Okay. And like this I given multiple condition, and second does not matches. And third also I given 2M here. And for fourth one last no alphabet, and here I given with the spaces. Now if I execute this one, you can notice that only your first case is true and the remaining PAN card cases are false. Is it clear? The PAN card program, guys. Okay, good. Sai Vikash, you want to pass more than one function. Yeah, if required, you can pass it, but the complexity will be bit high. Compared to now, it will be bit high. So as many function you are passing, those many complexity increases, guys. Okay. For your lab, for according to you people, you'll get only one function will be passed. If you want, you can pass it, you can access it, no issues. But make sure that how many function you're passing, you should have those many number of arguments should be there. Okay. Okay, guys. You want to do slicing. Slicing operator for which ma? Rajesh, for which slicing? The same, this one, PAN card number. PAN card, you're asking about PAN card only, right? Yeah, you can do slicing. Then how do you check the pattern of it? You are supposed to iterate it again. Okay, if you are doing slicing, iterate it. Here, in case of regular expression, no iteration is required, right? Directly, if it is matching or not, you can go ahead with it. Can do by slicing also, but number of lines will be high and your work will be high. You're supposed to compare it. That's required, right? Okay, guys, shall we wind up the session? We'll meet you by afternoon. You can have a glance of it meanwhile.